Are you looking forward to Thanksgiving, but not looking forward to counting all those bites, points, and calories? Well, I have a solution for part of your meal. This is my poultry sausage stuffing. Only one bite or blue point for this serving, and just about 100 calories. So if you want to see how this is done, stay tuned because it's coming up next. Hello and welcome to my kitchen. My name is Roy. I am a home cook and amateur baker, and I am here on this channel sharing recipes that have helped me to lose over 125 pounds, whether those recipes are mine or someone else's. Now today is going to be one of mine. It's one I just came up with. I was working on gearing up towards Thanksgiving, and I knew I wanted to try to do a stuffing or a dressing, depending on where you are, depending on where it's cooked. I keep calling it stuffing even though I don't put it in the bird, and Paul keeps reminding me that if it's not in the bird, it's dressing. Whatever it's called, this is going to be my light poultry sausage stuffing or dressing. Now I called it poultry sausage because I was going to do turkey sausage at first, and turkey breast can be sometimes hard to come by. So I was going to use chicken breast in its place, and I was going to put turkey or chicken in parentheses. And I was like, why not just put poultry? They're both poultry. Why not just make it simple for all of us? So this will be my poultry sausage stuffing or dressing. Now, I know it's traditional for a stuffing to be stuffed into the turkey, but that's not the best way to cook it, because stuffing inside of the bird, if the turkey is done to the correct temperature of 165 in the breast area, then the stuffing is not done, because the stuffing is inside the bird. It's harder to reach with the heat. So it's not going to be at the correct temperature to kill any bacteria that the turkey juices have leaked into it. But if you get the stuffing to the right temperature of 165 to make sure everything's killed off, then the turkey is about 180 and it's very dry. So if you're going to stuff the turkey, just stuff it with some fruits and aromatics and herbs and such, not with the stuffing. That's my recommendation, but you do you. Now this stuffing dressing, I'm just going to call it stuffing because I'm not going to keep bouncing back and forth. We all know it's either stuffing or dressing, and I'm calling it stuffing. So this one is going to start with some hamburger buns, in particular keto hamburger buns. Now these I got at Walmart. I have often bought some at Aldi, but for some reason the past month or so, Aldi has not been carrying them, at least the one near me. So I got these at Walmart, and even at Walmart, this was like the last package on the shelf. So I recommend, if you do want to get some of these buns, I mean, they are worth it. It's one bite or blue point a piece. Definitely stock up while you have them available, and throw them in your freezer if you need to. Now I know Aunt Millie's also has a bun similar to this, but that's not available in my area. I did have a friend of mine, Miss Paula, sent me some to try, and they were delicious. So any sort of keto style bun, if you can't find the buns, you could use like the keto style breads. Just make sure you're putting it into the recipe builder as you're doing it, and you'll be fine. Now this is a 12-ounce package. This is 8 buns. All 8 buns is only 7 bites or blue points. So we need to dry these out. So we are going to cut them up into cubes. You know how you've seen them in the packages, the dried packages, kind of like that. And to do that, I'm just going to basically cut these into 9. I'm going to go 2 slices this way, 2 slices this way, and I'll have 9 cubes per slice, 18 per bun. So just cutting them 3 times, 3 pieces that way, 3 pieces this way. Then I'm going to throw them right onto my cookie sheet. Now the cookie sheet is dry. It does not have any spray of any kind, because that could actually make things stick to it, because as this dries out, it's going to easily come off the baking sheet. So you don't need to spray this at all. So I'm going to cut these up and I will be right back. All right, so these are all cut up. What you want to do is just go through, and any that you didn't fully cut through, you just want to break those apart. You don't want them sticking together. And that looks pretty good. All right, so you want these in an even layer so that they can dry out. So now this is going to go into a 300-degree oven for 30 minutes. And I'm going to toss them every 10 minutes. So I'll put the timer for 10 minutes, stir them around just to get them, if any are touching, they can get those spots that are together exposed to the air, the hot air. And then another 10 minutes, stir them up, and then 30 minutes, they should be nice and toasty. So I'll get these in the oven, and then we're gonna start on our sausage. Okay, so for our sausage, I have 8 ounces or half a pound of chicken breasts that I've cut up in the freezer. You want to make sure that you put it in the freezer for 10 or 15 minutes to let it firm up a little bit before you do grinding. If you haven't seen my homemade sausage or ground meat video, I will put that up here in a card as well as down below in the description box, so you can find out more intricacies of making your own ground meat or ground sausage at home. But I figured while that was firming up, I would go over the spice mix that's going to go in here. There is 1 teaspoon of paprika. Now I have 1 teaspoon of rubbed sage. And I'm going to show you the difference, because on another video I did mention sage, and one of my subscribers had asked about rubbed versus ground. So this, I usually have rubbed sage on hand, and this is what it looks like. It's kind of like just bits of the leaf that was just rubbed together. It wasn't ground into a powder. So on the recipe, I'm going to distinguish between the two, because if you're using rubbed sage like I am, you would use 1 teaspoon. If you're using ground sage, which is much stronger because it's ground and more compact, you would use half a teaspoon. But that will be on the recipe, which will be on my blog. I also have a half teaspoon of salt, 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper, 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1/8 of a teaspoon of onion powder, 1/8 of a teaspoon of fennel seeds. And those, they actually are little seeds, and since we're doing it in the food processor, you don't have to worry about grinding them up first. But they're just little seeds, kind of like caraway seeds, kind of long and thin. Now, if you don't want to go to the trouble of getting fennel seeds because you're not going to use them very often, they are a big component of sausages. So if you want to make sausage meat like I've done in my past video, you should have at least a little bit on hand for that. If you don't want to go through the trouble of getting the fennel seed, there are some substitutions. Fennel seed has a very unique flavor, and you would think there can't be that many things you could substitute it with. But you could substitute it with a few things. You could substitute it with caraway seed, which I've mentioned. But again, that's something that a lot of people don't keep on hand necessarily unless they're making a lot of rye bread. You could also replace it with cumin. So Jennifer Lynn, you're in luck. You could replace it with dill, and you could replace it with celery seed. There are probably other options, but those are the four main ones that I think would come closest to fennel seed. And then the last component for this spice mix, which is optional, and I have not put it in here because Paul is not a fan of spicy foods, is 1/8 to 1/4 teaspoon of crushed red pepper, depending on how spicy you like it. You could throw in a little of the crushed red pepper as well if you prefer a spicier sausage. So let me put these things away and grab the chicken, and we will start grinding it up. All right, so here is our chicken breast, just 8 ounces, and there was a little left over. I weighed it out. There was a little left over, so I just threw that in a little baggie. I'll use it for something. But you can see it's not frozen. It still moves, but you want it a little firmer than just right out of the package. So let me move this over here a little bit, and we will just throw in our chicken. And if you haven't seen the grinding your meat at home video, it's definitely worth looking at, because especially chicken breasts and turkey breast tend to be extremely pricey just for them to grind it. It's usually about double what you would pay for just the chicken breast or turkey breast itself. So it's definitely worth, if you have a food processor, to just make your own at home. It's super easy, saves you a lot of money, and sometimes chicken breasts and turkey breasts are not always easy to find. So we have our little chunks of chicken in there. I'm gonna throw in our spice mix here. And now you're just gonna pulse it about 3 or 4 times, scrape down the sides, check and see how close you are to a ground texture. And then maybe 1 or 2 more times, but we shall see how this comes out. So 1 second while I pulse this up. Okay, so it is pretty well ground, but I still see chunks, tiny chunks, but still chunks of meat. And like, see here, I don't know if you can see, there are little chunks there that are a little bigger than you'd want for ground. So just going to pulse this a couple of more times. Okay, and that looks perfect. Perfectly ground looking meat, and it took 7 pulses, 6, 7 pulses. I'm telling you, it's worth grinding your own at home if you can. All right, so I am going to put this sausage into a bowl. The bread cubes are about to come out of the oven shortly, and then we will move on once I get back. Okay, so here we have our bread cubes. And just to show you the difference, you can now hear that they are nicely firm, which is what you want. But what you also want is for them to be cool. You don't want to mix everything in while they're still hot, because they will quickly absorb things when they're hot, more so than when they're cold. So we're gonna let these cool completely. Now this and the sausage, you could do the day before. So that way you have those set, you don't have to worry about prepping those things on the day that you're going to make this. So these can easily be prepped ahead of time. You could even prep the entire dish, put it in the fridge, and then throw it in the oven the next day, just add probably another 5 or 10 minutes to the cooking time. But once these have cooled down, we will be back and I'll show you how that process goes. Okay, so our bread cubes have cooled and they are in a large bowl. Just, you can hear how dry they've gotten in just half an hour. Now you want them at 300 degrees when you put them in the oven, as I said, because if you put them higher, they have a chance of turning brown, and you don't want that. You just want them to dry out. So make sure you just have your oven at 300, 30 minutes, and you get a nice bread cube. Let me set these aside for now and go over the other ingredients. We have a cup of reduced sodium chicken broth. We have a cup of chopped celery and a cup of chopped onion. Now I have a video for cutting onions, preparing onions. I will card that here as well as put that in the description box. For the celery, all I did was cut them in half lengthwise and then cut across them just to get size about the same as the onion. Then we have 2 eggs. We have our sausage that we prepared a moment ago. And then we have our herb blend for the stuffing dressing itself. So in here, we have 2 tablespoons of the rubbed sage. If you're using ground sage, you would use 1 tablespoon. There is 1 tablespoon of dried parsley, 3/4 teaspoon of dried thyme, 3/4 teaspoon of salt, and 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper. So we have our pan over medium heat. I've sprayed it with some cooking spray. I also have over here waiting in the wings our 9-inch pan that we're going to bake this in. I've already sprayed this with cooking spray as well. So that's just over here waiting for us to get ready for it. So the pan is heated up. I'm going to throw in the onions, and that's what you want to hear when you throw it in the pan. You want to hear a little sizzle, otherwise it's too cold. And the celery. And then we're just going to saute these for about 10 minutes until the onions have gotten translucent, meaning that they've gotten like a paler milky white than they are right now, and the celery will have softened. So let me babysit this, and I will be back in a moment to show you where we go from there. Okay, so it's been 10 minutes for the onions and celery, and they are looking good. So now we're going to add in our spice blend here, because we want to get those flavors blooming in this heat before we add in our sausage. And I can definitely get a waft of these once they hit the heat. So we're just going to let this heat for a minute or two just to let those herbs bloom, let their flavors really get enhanced by the more direct heat than if we just threw them in and threw them in the oven with everything else. Okay, so this has been about a minute, minute and a half so far. So now we're just going to throw in our sausage. Now, you could, if you didn't want to do the chicken breast in the food processor, or you don't have a food processor, you could get ground chicken or turkey breast and just mix those herbs inside of the chicken breast before you use it to give it that sausage flavor. So this we are just going to cook through about 10 minutes until the chicken sausage is done, and that you'll know when it doesn't brown like other meats do. Obviously, we all know it turns white. So that is what we're looking for when we are cooking our chicken here. So that still has some time to go. While we're waiting for that, I'm going to take our cup of chicken broth and add the eggs to it. And I just have a fork here, just a small fork to whisk this all together. Now I did take the eggs out of the refrigerator a little bit earlier so they'd come more to room temperature, and it would make blending it in here to the broth a little bit easier than if they were ice cold. So, as I always say, room temperature ingredients are usually the best, except for meats. Typically, you obviously don't want those at room temperature, but you do want them not directly out of the fridge either, because it will take longer for them to cook if they are directly from the fridge. So, okay, I'm going to set this aside and bring in our cubes, because once the sausage mixture is done, we're going to add it into the bread cubes, add in our liquid, put it in the pan, but I will show you that in just a moment. All right, so that looks good. The chicken is cooked through. So now we are going to add this in to our bread cube mixture here and just toss that through. So you just try not to throw them out of the bowl like I often do. So you're just going to toss them around. Now the sausage mixture may end up settling towards the bottom, but that's fine. Once we add in our liquid here, it'll be easier to distribute. So you're just going to take the broth and egg mixture and drizzle it all over everything, because you want to soak as much of this as you can, because those eggs are what's going to help it set up. The broth is going to keep it moist, but the eggs are going to help it to become one chunk rather than fall apart into pieces. So now we're just going to toss everything into the liquid so everything gets as well coated as it can. And you can see the sausage is kind of hanging around with the bread a little bit better than it was earlier. Now that the liquid is in there, it's got a little something to cling to on the bread, where before the bread was too dry for it to really adhere to anything. All right, so that looks pretty good. I'm going to bring in my pan and grab my foil while I'm over here. Now I have the oven preheated to 350 degrees this time. I'm just going to put this, I better use two hands to get started here, because you know me, if it's not a muscle issue, it's a clumsy issue. So try to get this in as well as we can. And you know I'm going for all of those bits in the bowl, because as I think it was Rhett on one of my comments said, you're taking the points for it, you might as well use it. So now you're just going to even this out as much as you can and press it down a little bit. Push it into the corners. Make sure that you have a fairly even dressing or stuffing, however you choose to refer to it. All right, so we have everything in there. It's all evened out. We're going to cover it with foil. Now it's going to go into 350-degree oven for about 25 to 30 minutes. Then we're going to remove the foil and bake it for another 10 to 15 until it feels firm to the touch or has gotten some browning on the top. So I'm going to go get this into the oven and I'll show you what it looks like once we're done. Okay, so I figured I would show you the midpoint, not really mid, maybe 2/3 of the way in. This is after the first half hour covered, and I wanted to show you what it'll look like. I also wanted to show you how you should uncover this, because you do not want to uncover it this way towards you, because all of that steam will come up and you could actually get burned. So you always want to open away from you like this, Look at this way. It's heat and steam is escaping out that way. All right, so here we have it. It's kind of spongy now because that foil trapped in all the moisture and really helped it to absorb everything. So now it's going to go back in for another 10 to 15 minutes, and we'll hopefully get some browning on top, or at least it will be firm to the touch. So I will be back to show you that once we get there. Okay, so here we have our poultry sausage stuffing. You can see nice little bits of sausage floating at the top, a little browning on the sides, and it is getting crispy. I just wanted to show you that. I don't know if you can hear some of the crispiness in there, but it should be all perfectly set. Now I'm going to let this sit for about 5 or 10 minutes just so that we can cut it without it being too hot. And then I will cut up servings and show you what a serving would be. Now, I listed this as a serving for 8, but if you did 6 servings, 2 8 servings, or even up to 12 servings, it would still be 1 bite or a blue point. And I'm on the iTrackBites Better Balance plan, which is equivalent to the old WW Blue plan. So basically from 6 to 12 servings, this is going to be 1 bite. If you are a real stuffing lover, like I am, you could actually do 1/4 of this pan for just 2 bites or 2 blue points. But I did it as servings of 8 because typically you're going to have other people with you when you're having stuffing. Typically you're going to have other sides, so you probably won't need as much, but you could. Now, as far as calories, if you are following calories, 1/8 of this pan would be 101 calories. I couldn't get it to an even 100. I don't know why. It just wouldn't give that to me. It's just the story of my life. For fat, you would get 3.6 grams. For carbs, you would get 19.4 grams. And for protein, it would be 12.7 grams. So a nice stuffing recipe that you can have on your Thanksgiving table, your holiday table, or any time of the year, really. If you're in the mood for stuffing, you're in the mood for stuffing. So why not make it one that you can actually enjoy and not feel guilty about? Okay, so I'm going to use my handy dandy non-fish fish spatula and just cut into this. Seems nicely set up. Although, like most stuffings, you know, it tends to crumble a little bit at times, so no big worry there if it does. And I'm curious if, I mean, I'm measuring this out because of the portions and because of doing my weight loss journey and making sure I have my portions correctly. But typically, when I had stuffing, I was more of a spooner. I would just grab a spoon and dig in. Are you a spooner, or do you like to cut into it? Be curious to know, so let me know in the comments down below. And let's see, the first one is always a real thrill to get out. So let's see how little damage I can do here. Let me set that down ahead of me so that I can get in here a little bit with my hands. There we go. Now it did fall apart a little bit here, but like I said, no worries. But I am going to get every bit of my portion out. So there you have it. 1 portion of my poultry sausage stuffing or dressing. I'm not going to quibble over the name, but you can leave a comment down below. Which do you call it? Is it dressing no matter what? Is it stuffing no matter what? Is it stuffing in the bird and dressing out of the bird? What are your thoughts? My thoughts are that this looks pretty darn good. So I hope that you enjoyed this recipe, and if you did, please give me a thumbs up. I would really appreciate that. Also, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already and you are looking for recipes that can help you on a weight loss journey. Another reason to subscribe, this coming Saturday, the 13th, is going to be the final day for my giveaway. So if you haven't seen that, I will put a card up here as well as a link down below. So check out my giveaway. It's for subscribers only, so subscribe to the channel and you'll have a chance to win all the luxurious, I've heard it's a rather generous prize pack. So I just wanted to make sure that I showed how much I appreciate all of you for subscribing and helping me build this channel as quickly as I have. It's really still amazing to me. And also hit that notification bell for the next time I upload any sort of video, whether it's a giveaway or not. And comment down below, as I said, what your choices are for the name of this dish. And you can also follow me over on social media. Here is my Instagram handle, as well as 2 Facebook groups that I am part of. One is mine, Recipes with Roy, and the other one is Finding Our Way, W-E-I-G-H. And that one I co-admin with Jennifer Lynn from the Jennifer Lynn channel and Bree Coleman from Balancing Life with Bree. So join us over there. Lots of great tips, tricks, recipes, and support. So I guess I'm going to go and enjoy some stuffing, even though it's not Thanksgiving yet. And I hope that you will be doing the same. So until next time, bye.